When railroader workers strike back, Ohio gas attack. You know, I gotta say, major disasters in the United States are always a hilarious shit show of extreme incompetence, psychopathic greed, and an army of brain-dead career bureaucrats tossing around the blame hot potato until it cools off, and then they just drop it and bury everything while gaslighting and legally silencing the victims who are oftentimes hurt worse by the government help than by the incident itself. And we see this definitely nowadays, as even live right now, we have seen them completely shut down the firefighter who wanted to let people know how dangerous the situation is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play a little video before we do our introduction for YouTube Live, just so that people know on Gods and Prophets show how bad of a sit rep this actually is. All right.
Notified a short time ago that we've had a drastic change in the chemical inside the tank cars that we've been concerned about and watching all day, the vinyl chloride. We are at a risk now of a catastrophic failure of that container. Measures are being taken to try and control that and prevent that from happening. We need to get everybody who remained within that mile radius or decided they needed to come back within that mile radius. We need you to leave now.
Yeah, we need you to leave.
Again, officials are ordering.
Because what we're not telling you, of course, is the fact that the chemical that we've just bathed in the local area is the same chemical that was used as part of the gas attacks in World War I. Shit that's so bad that it can bind to the chemicals of your body, and what are we all just... The next experimentation happened in Ohio, one of the richest farmlands here in America, right next to Pennsylvania and Toronto, right near Lake Erie. Anyway, find out more on Gods and Prophets YouTube, now live. I'm your host, Talon, Trueth.
And Mark Santana.
And today, on Gods and Prophets, we're going to be breaking down how Joe Biden and his little anti-strike monopoly, where he said you either will work or you're going to get destroyed for 10 years of federal imprisonment, has completely screwed the pooch when it comes to our future environment. I mean, the amount of stuff that they're not telling people how bad it is up here, the gas attack that happened in Ohio is so bad right now that we're going to be seeing commercials on it in TV in about 10 years about if you or any of your loved ones were in this area between these dates, you can now apply a class action lawsuit.
You think John Morgan is just rubbing his hands together right now?
with a big old smile on his face,
right.
going,
the
largest law firm is there for
right.
you.
If it hasn't rotted away from all that alcohol that I drink, I'm totally on this in about 10 years. But no, that's going to be fantastic. All that farmland, all that. So what originally happened there, Talon?
What we're looking at right now is that we are, here's the problem. It's fucking math. When you try to explain math on how bad shit is, 12 miles away, they're finding chickens that are
12
miles away from the explosion. They're finding the chickens. Now, if they said, what was it? 27,000 pounds of HCl and 40 pounds of phosphagen pumped into the troposphere based on the math, right? The OSHA exposure limit, OSHA, our safety for fucking bad chemicals, says that 0.1 parts per million is bad. You should never have that much. 0.1 parts per million. Right, we're just basing it. This is the boring shit. It's fucking math. This is how much of a clusterfuck Biden did by forcing these rail workers to work harder and harder hours with less and less pay. Is that it's so toxic that what we have is about 0.1 ppm is bad. We're looking at almost a 1.1 mile of at least 1 by 1 mile of at least getting into the water table of that bad. We're talking. They said that what was it? The water is safe and clear and easy to drink, and at the same time, they have fish popping up out of it.
That was 10 miles away. But yes, after this whole crash, things caught on fire. Then they had to contain it by doing a, what did they call it? We have to do a same thing they did to the Twin Towers.
Clean up?
No, not a clean up. They had to clean it up, but they had to do a controlled demolition.
Oh, they did a controlled death. Successful.
So, yeah,
but what they didn't do is
demolition.
they didn't cool down the material before they blew it up, so they didn't make it
what does
heavy.
That mean? It just does it turn into vapor?
So they made it into vapor. They made essentially mustard gas. Not quite mustard gas because we're only talking about phosphogene and vinyl chloride.
Yeah, vinyl chloride, which they use to make PVC and a bunch of different plastics that we use to put our, we put our body on it, we drink out of it, our water runs through it. But when it's PVC,
I'm not talking about plastic poisoning. This is a completely different fucking subject.
I know, but that made me real sketchy. I'm already super paranoid about a lot of things.
If you want to get paranoid about a lot of things, start looking at mercury adjuvants in every single vaccine that's ever been introduced, ever.
Nope, we'll stick with the vinyl chloride.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about any of that. Let's move back to the poisoning that's happening in real time. You know what I'm saying?
Good. Yes, sir.
Experts say that, yeah, that's the kind of bullshit that they're going to do. But here's the trick. Anybody who's within 100 miles of this should be fucking evacuated.
They did a mile, though.
They did a mile, and they didn't do direction and location of where it was going to drift and start forward evacuating. Because it's a hilarious example of hot potato, no blame bullshit that they always do. Our idiots in charge always have to pass the buck. No responsibility. There's no leadership. They're all looking for somebody to take the blame so they can shift it off. Like, I'm going to show you dead fish found in Leslie Run near East Palestine, not Steen.
Palestine. I love the separation
derailment.
There. I call it Palestine, Ohio. No, it's Palestine.
Yeah, it's Palestine. Of course,
that's a hard I there with an E at the end.
A lot of things. Now, the EPA does say that the area well and groundwater are safe. However,
the EPA says the area ground well is safe. At the same time, in the same fucking breath,
they're deciding to
there are dead fish.
Chances.
Oh, there was hundreds.
Russell Murphy is referring to the fish now belly up in Leslie Run. He and his wife noticed them last night, barely 48 hours after the fiery derailment 5 miles away.
This is huge, huge environmental effects.
That's now one of many concerns the EPA now faces.
The impact of the fish, yes, there was a impact of those.
The impact of the fish, yes. We totally saw fish die, but human beings breathing it in, it's a nice little thing. Just let it bind with your
Environmental
lungs.
cleanup crews were at and actually in that water today. So are these booms.
Every single one of those fat, soluble things that's inside will... Worst case scenario, we're talking acid rain, because it's going to go in the water well system, it's going to evaporate, it's going to be acid rain, it's going to sear people's flesh. Minimum. But if they breathe it in, it goes into their liver and it starts producing cancer like a motherfucker. We're talking the last time that this happened in Jersey, one of the cleanup crews, same chemical happened in Jersey a few years ago. One of the crew members who did cleanup had cancer within 2 months and died.
2 months and died. And I was seeing a video earlier of these crews out there getting ready to clean this thing up, and they're not wearing full hazmat suits.
Of course, but the what is it? I have another link to the National Guard hazmat unit is heading now.
Are they actually wearing the hazmat suits?
Yeah,
because they should.
Here's a picture of them right now. Is they have PPE. This is for chemical warfare attacks. This is for biohazard type sort of environments. If the National Guard is rolling around in orange jumpsuits, you know that shit's fucked, right?
Well, if it is the National Guard, it can't be that fucked. I've rolled with them for a bit.
Yeah, just because you were a nasty girl doesn't mean that you were a good girl.
Oh, and look at those. They're like giant. They look like bubbles.
I think what we're going to see from this is not only just one of those huge lawsuits that'll eventually go, if you or any of your loved one were in the local area when this happened.
No.
You got to remember that it just doesn't disappear quickly. unless it's addressed quickly. And they're not addressing it. They're kind of just letting it evaporate and go out.
How does a train derail in the first place?
So there's rail workers on the area, because remember, Biden forced every rail worker to continue working regardless of how they've seen corporate bullshit happen. So the rail workers said that there's something called precision scheduled railroading. The practice, dubbed by some workers as positive shareholder reaction, manages freight movement by the individual car level, as opposed to the whole train, ensuring train cars are constantly on the move. So it's never just stopped and settled and then moved from motion from a cold start. They keep it stop piece by piece, independently, like a centipede that's schizophrenic and has different controls of its legs.
Like a schizophrenic centipede.
Like a schizophrenic centipede.
Gotcha.
Right. Where the problem that they're saying is that the immediate cause of the wreck appears to be a 19th century style mechanical failure of the axle on one of the cars, an overheated bearing, leading to the derailment and jackknifing tumbling cars. Because of this practice, they don't have enough people to inspect the fucking thing. Nobody wants to pay. You know what I'm saying? We're in the middle of a recession that America won't acknowledge. Nobody wants to pay workers for what they do.
Well, you're inspecting the trains, but the trains aren't just hopping off the track. It has to be something on the track, correct?
No, actually, it's not something on the track. It's just a ball bearing in this case. A ball bearing.
What locks up the wheel, and the wheel, what, shakes?
No,
jumps?
do you know nothing about ball bearings?
I don't know anything about ball bearings.
You know anything about tanks?
Giant train wheels. That
you know anything about tanks?
Tanks?
Yeah.
My tank knowledge is just.
So you know nothing about
shit.
ball bearings at all.
Let me call my buddy Chase. He can be on here and tell us.
That would be
everything
amazing if you had him
tanks.
on tap. Unfortunately, you can't phone a friend because this isn't a fucking game show.
It's not a game. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here then. All right, moving on.
Let's win a prize. Ball bearings are tiny little balls, spherical,
inside of a bearing,
and they balance things.
Yeah.
If they're off balance, it'll wiggle. What happens when you wiggle on a fucking railroad track and you don't have any give?
So the wheel literally does jump off the track. Right. It will shake.
It got right off the track. And then, unfortunately, the balance just tilted because, you know, they don't get full maintenance and they had this whole fucking process of incompetence. And since there's no accountability thanks to Joe Biden, we have this cascading shit show where rail workers are forced to work or they go to jail. And it's not safe. And here's a proof. This is a World War I chemical. You want me to just break into the horrible math for a second?
Conductor Talon. Yes, please.
So the train was seen on fire in Salem, about 20.1 miles from their destination. We have the only evidence of that is a Ring camera that actually caught it on the way 13 minutes away from where it was going.
No shit.
Yeah.
And nobody knew.
So let's take a look
here.
here.
Ring camera.
You can see that it's going very quickly and it's also on fire. You can see the wheel on fire right there. And then eventually it derails 13 minutes later. Bam, bam, wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Shout out to Jack Jam.
You know what kind of trips me out is a lot of trains will catch a car way back and drag it for miles and nobody knows, or they catch fire like in this incident and
hey, it's Jordan Miller
nobody knows. But if I walk into a Best Buy or a Target and I try sliding something in my pocket, they got a whole separate room back there with wall-to-wall cameras. They can't slide a couple dash cams.
Well, I'm going to tell you
train.
Straight up how much bullshit it is. Here in Florida, we have something called the Sunrail system. Sunrail system has a camera system at every single juncture and also loads between the residential train of the Sunrail and Amtrak, which is great. They have to constantly cross on the same tracks in order to go north.
Okay.
So
that doesn't sound very safe.
The Sunrail goes from, I think, I don't know, somewhere around Scanford all the way down to Kissimmee.
Is that expensive?
It used to be pretty fucking reasonable. Pay for a full day pass for less than $10.
And just be a train man and ride the trains?
Well,
that sounds like a lot of fun.
The best part about it would be if you work in inner city, you could go to the inner city and then come back without any problems. You know, say you wanted to go to from Orlando to Winter Park, you could just hop on the Sunrail and be without spending gas money. It's a lot easier to park somewhere in Park or Longwood, any of those places rather than park in Orlando.
Is the inner city the ghetto?
At this point,
it sounds kind of ghetto. The inner city kids.
At this point, I'm pretty sure that with the quality of life crammed up like a fucking batch of sardine lied to, they're more like mushrooms at this. I wouldn't call it a ghetto. I would just call it a brief round of sadness and
debauchery for sure.
I mean, what is it? Most successful businesses either sell titty, ass, or drugs. Pharmaceutical companies. What would be titties? Porn.
Oh, you're saying successful businesses. I'm thinking like brick and mortar stores.
No, I thought like even brick and mortar stores. What they'll do is the more successful they are, the hotter their commercials people are. Like only fashion industries that are already rolling in millions of dollars can cater to fat people.
That's what drove me nuts about that whole movement that broke out several years ago, where some lady with no titties got fired or rejected from Hooters, and then she raised a stink about how they're only hiring people with big breasts.
But isn't that
part
of their...
Yes.
I mean, that's
the point, yes.
That's like being mad at the Boy Scouts of America for having boys in the Boy Scout and not wanting girls. And then the Girl Scout of America suing the Boy Scouts when the Boy Scouts allow girls into the Boy Scout, because then the Boy Scouts are taking away membership from the Girl Scouts.
Maybe the Girl Scouts should
it's just proof that they should be less boring.
Right. Stop selling cookies and get out in the woods with your counselors. Play Dodge the Diddler.
Again, that's not the game. It used to be teaching them skills that would allow them to retain relationship. As we all know, like the train derailment in Ohio, actual relationships are crashing down all around us.
From what I see on these comments online here and there, people really aren't upset. They think that the mayor or the governor is doing an amazing job.
The governor who's suing the rail company in Ohio. Yeah, he put
that was quick.
Oh, the first thing he did for his grand opening was suing the rail company who was responsible for the actual See, they're punishing the rail company for the practice that's a business standard all around way, as all these rail companies want to get their product moved faster, more efficiently with less people. At the end of the day, they're just trying to make money, right? It's not so bad. Just because they've completely ruined the farmland for the next 10 years doesn't mean anything.
You know, there's a lot of train accidents every single year.
Hey, it's Jordan Miller.
I'm surprised more dangerous things like this aren't spilling into our farmland.
I mean, really and truly, they are. Think about when monkeypox was popping off and got into the wastewater system, cleared off of the radar. There has been crises. Flint, Michigan, and their water supply. Baltimore, how their water's starting to degrade. You know, there's these crises that aren't being addressed because we're too busy displaying power. Or the power that we're displaying is, let's funnel money to Ukraine instead of working on the train. You know what I'm saying? Would this 19th century tech problem be such an issue if we weren't piping billions to another country? Question mark? At what point do we allow ourselves the grace to handle issues at home? And honestly, when are we going to keep some fucking accountability to our politicians who keep trying to do this hot potato?
No. They don't need to be held accountable.
So, Amanda Brashears of North Lima finds chickens dead Tuesday, raising chemical release from the train. This was
right after they did the controlled demolition, correct?
And this was 12 hours.
12 hours
so let's take here we go. We got a live video on this one.
Cool.
Says when she went to let her dog out last night at about 10 o'clock, the smell made her eyes water. And she also believes it could be why her chickens are now dead.
So I walked up to the cage and this is what I found.
Amanda Brashears was going to feed her 5 hens and rooster this morning when she discovered them all lifeless, practically in the same position with no signs of a predator.
We're killing all of our egg supply!
I'm beyond upset and quite panicked because this.
Look at her face.
They may be just chickens, but they're family.
Brashears says her chickens were alive and well yesterday.
That's meth face.
She believes the smell following the detonation of the train carrying chemicals that derailed in East Palestine is to blame for her bird's
because mustard gas has a specific
My video
smell
camera
like
footage
peppers.
shows my chickens
And
were
I'm
perfectly
curious
fine
what
before
the
they started this burn.
smell that they're talking.
And as soon
You know
as
what
they
I'm
started
saying?
the burn,
Even in this,
my
they're
chickens
not
slowed
giving
down
enough
and they died.
information. They're just
if we
kind
can do
of.
this to chickens in one night, imagine what it's going to do to us in 20 years.
Dude, they don't
Officials
need 10,
have
20
said
years. They
that
need
the
2
smell
months.
wasn't toxic or dangerous, but still
instant.
advised people in the Mahoning Valley to stay indoors Monday.
Her
nice
voice
chicken
is the
coop,
most
though.
irritating fucking reporter news that I've ever
the
heard.
newscasters, most of them talk like that.
Most of them talk like they recently ingested a stick far up their bowel regions.
I wonder if that's like the "Hi, look how trustworthy I am" voice. You think so? Wow.
The branding, it never stops. Never. I don't. Here's the problem with this. This is such a big, intense thing because when you break into the math, but I keep talking about the math, and I know it's like moon math. Your eyes glaze over and you wonder.
I was about to say, every time you mention math, you just lose me. I continue with your math. I got this. I'm not writing any of it down.
You're not writing any of this down. Anyway, when exposed to heat in an oxygen-free environment, vinyl chloride thermally decomposes into HCl and phosgene in a runaway thermal reactor. So if the tanker car is heating up on its own and is in danger of rupturing, it's literally a tiny chemical weapons factory. If it bursts, the vinyl chloride will burn and explode, dispersing all the phosgene and HCl into the surrounding area. Now, it's absorbed primarily via inhalation or ingestion. So that's why I said dead fish, dead chickens. You don't want to eat any of this. All this shit needs to be burned. They can't eat any of it. They also can't inhale any of the air, period. Because when they do, it goes right to your liver. And if you're not taking, I think it's, what is it? Glutathione?
Glutathione?
Glutathione. If you're not taking that and pissing like a beast, you're in trouble.
Okay.
So if you find yourself in an area with that, I don't recommend it. First off, you've got to be smooth-brained. You've got to be President Biden's speechwriter if you're out there right now. Looking for inspiration on the next stream of syllables you're going to spit in my ear. Anyway, you're out there. You should be drinking a lot of water and dosing up on glutathione.
Glutathione?
Yeah, and I guess some NAC for your liver, process in your liver, but it's straight cancer. 100%.
NIC, is that niacin?
I think so.
Niacin does make you all flush, right? It's what you can take to help if you're stopping to smoking cigarettes or something.
Honestly, though, when I went into cigarette smoke side, because I was curious, found a study that suggests that pipe smokers live longer, but rolled it in with cigar smokers to hide that data.
They lumped them together?
Yeah, they lumped pipe and cigars together. They did an independent study back in the day. You know how it is. Big tobacco tries to hide the fact that the reason that it's all fucked up is it's uranium depleted fertilizer combined with a whole batch of side chemicals, and they try to make it sound like cigarettes, which is just the shape and what's in it is the problem, not what's actually in it. Kind of like how we have artificial sugars or red dye in our M&Ms that have crushed inside.
Jesus, well, that vinyl chloride can actually be in the smoke that you exhale when you smoke a cigarette. I'm assuming like a Marlboro.
Huh. Any one of the brand deal.
Or those big brands.
Yeah.
What's the brand that all the hippies like these days?
Oh, you're talking about
Native
my
Spirits?
American Indian?
Yeah, what's it called?
Indian
Native
Spirits,
Spirit?
one of the two? Yeah.
Yeah, something
My
about Native
go-to
American.
smoking brand if I'm going to smoke a...
It doesn't give you the buzz that you need.
I
You don't get that.
Get the, what was it? We were on our camping trip trying to push a nice, happy little smile on me. And I was tempting because it was menthol.
Oh, that wasn't me that was pushing that. That was definitely the third party.
It was definitely third party,
No, I didn't
He
ask.
pushed right towards me a nice pack of menthol
man?
smokes, and I'm like, But it's about a month now since I haven't touched them, and I'm not really curious about it. I'm focusing more on my upcoming baby, not dealing with any of that stuff.
I tell you what, if you haven't been out in the woods with your buddies yet, just for at least a night, get out there and enjoy some fresh air, because that was a good time.
We did it in the full moon. We had a great time. Crocodiles stole your fishing rod.
Almost instantly.
Almost
that was
fucking flawless.
Oh, so depressing, man. I carried that stupid fishing rod through a mile through the woods, annoying everybody with me.
Oh,
as it scraped
absolutely.
off the trees. I get there, we don't even pop the tent up, and I
had
cast
to dodge
out
like a fucking QuickTime event.
And I said, I don't want to sit here and hold this all day. So I wrapped it around a tree, and just boom, gone.
And of course, you told everybody you put the line in the water that you put meat on a lure.
I told nobody. I told nobody.
You told nobody.
I told nobody.
In crocodile-infested water.
I did. And then I marched my happy ass out in the woods to get some firewood.
It's an amazing experience considering how often we should have died.
That was a really scary night. I'm not gonna lie.
That or the bear.
The bear, whatever it was that went through the woods, that came right up on our campsite.
So that was alligator going near the river.
Yes.
But the big thing moving through the forest, I'm still feeling like it was a boar based on just how, like, our third party might have called bear shit in the woods, but I call bullshit on the bear shit. It didn't look like bear shit to me. It wasn't enough. They didn't even fuck with the blueberries.
They didn't. That's true. They
didn't fuck with the
blueberries. Are like right outside. They didn't really mess with anything that we had. We left food all over the place. Yeah.
Well, that's not true. We did tie everything up in a bag and a tray for the most part.
That wasn't very. I mean, I could reach that if I was standing on my knees.
Right, but the whole
point
point is to lure away the wild animals so they're not coming up to our exact tent.
We should have lured them more than 5 feet.
5 feet is good enough for us to get out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And or arm ourselves with axes, spears, and swords.
Well, we want to make sure that we give a good sacrifice to the bear or the boar, so the meatiest person has to be up front.
Do you think
that's not me?
What I'm curious is, so they're kind of monitoring the fish. They're kind of monitoring water. They're monitoring people staying in the area. They said everything's fine and safe, but local residents can't come back in. Now it's been several days.
Ohio. Yeah.
And they're wondering what's going on. And nobody sat them down and gave them a basic chemistry lesson. And see, chemistry matters. This is where you kind of start to have a lot of disdain for people.
Is this going to be fun or is this going to be math?
It's going to be fun.
Okay.
Because we're making fun of
Let me
people
have it.
at this point.
All right. Let me hear this chemistry talk.
You hear about a chemical name, you don't look it up. You just assume that people are telling you the truth and they know better. You're blinding yourself and slapping yourself in the balls because somebody says it's for health benefits. You know what I'm saying? At what point do we not just say, maybe you're the reason that we should have more edges and less round, soft areas? Maybe Darwin needs to do a little more work here. You know?
All right, I agree.
Because it's a fuck up. And it should absolutely be called to question. But if it's standard business practice and the government itself endorses it by bullying everybody to do what they say.
Oh, you're referring to the Biden legislation.
The Biden legislation. Do you have a copy of it? Read out what it does. Let them know, Mark, how fucked this is to begin with for these poor bastards.
I will. I totally will do that. Can you give me a second? Did I send that to you? Are you just watching me stew here? Here it is. I got it. All right. You're an asshole. A statement for, I was searching all kinds of other shit. Statement from President Joe Biden on averting a rail shutdown. I love how professional this is. Briefing room, statements and releases. I am calling on Congress to pass legislation immediately to adopt the tentative agreement between railroad workers and operators without any modifications or delay to avert a potentially crippling national rail shutdown. This agreement was approved by labor and management negotiators. A lot of big words, a lot of $10 words. September. On the day that it was announced, labor leaders, business leaders, and elected officials all hailed it as fair resolution.
Fair.
Labor leaders, not the laborers, but the leaders of the laborers.
You know, the unions were destroyed because of the Communist Party. They infected it and took over the unions and started using it for their own leverage. That's why we don't have effective unions now. Every time that there's even a hint of a union for Amazon workers, or what happened, they end up getting all fired.
Yeah.
It's because unions or unified workers against corporations is an idea that must be destroyed at any cost.
You must not allow the peasantry to revolt? How dare you?
So, the labor leaders, business leaders, and elected officials all hailed it as failed resolution of the dispute between the hard-working men and women of the rail freight unions and the companies of that industry. The deal provides a historic. This is how amazing I am. Let me pat myself on the back. I'm Joe Biden. 24% pay raise for rail workers.
Did we get to a point where they suck themselves off so hard they're using words like historic?
Everything with this administration has been historic.
Every fuck up is historic. The Afghanistan fuck up, historic.
We got him out in record times, historic. Unemployment, historic lows. People in the workplace, historic.
I thought IBM
highs.
just fired a whole 3,000 people.
That doesn't count.
What about the Southwest Airlines national airplane fuck up recently? Is that historic? Are we still breaking the records of history?
Hey, no more mean
tweets. Carving in the Library of Alexa. Can you imagine someday in the fucking future, in the far, far future, when people are remembering how retarded we were at this point in time, that they're going to call it the Library of Alexa?
The Library of Alexa?
They're going to call it the Library of Alexa. What it's going to be is it's going to be they're going to find one of those fucking sound devices, right? You know, the connects to Alexa, and it's going to have quantum computing or whatever. And they're going to just have artificial micro wafers of carved technology into symbols that can be read by artificial intelligence. And they'll start speaking to us. It'll be the Library of Alexa. It'll be the sum of all of our knowledge. And the only thing that they'll have is a collection of history that says historic.
Everything's historic. It provides improved healthcare benefits, and it provides the ability of operating craft workers to take unscheduled leave for medical needs. You asked me to read this,
yeah, but I didn't say do it dry.
I'm trying to show you exactly what he's doing in this bill. He has to tell them, hey, you're not allowed to protest anymore. We went ahead and fixed it.
You can take unpaid leave anytime you want.
But only for operating craft workers. Is that all of them? Or is that a particular job?
It's like a particular group. Say on a train conductor would be.
All right, this is only 6 more pages. All right, here we go.
No! No, it's too boring!
I'm done. I'm good. But that's it. That's what he gave him. He gave him, you can take leave when you have a medical emergency, and we're going to give you a 24% pay increase.
And yet, what that doesn't give them is more time off with their family. The problem that happened in Southwest Air doesn't give them really any pay retroactive that they were already doing overtime throughout getting paid. That was one of the big problems.
And we'll talk about that
at what
here.
point are corporations just not going to start paying for a large group of PR campaign lawyers and mercenaries, people with guns, and they're just going to start assassinating local politicians if they don't
need that when they're driving
comply.
through. Where were they driving through in California, where the trains kept getting jumped? It was like Somalia, but it was in some valley in California.
Where they were just jumping on the planes to rob them?
On the trains, yeah. And like
Amazon packages were getting tossed. It was a good time. It shows you what a policy of opening up your asshole to everybody really gets you.
A legitimate question. Does this mean the price of all of our goods are going to go up now?
100%.
Is that why they have been kind of on the rise?
Yes.
I mean, if I'm going to be paying
between that and the fact that if you look there are two headlines always bouncing in the news. It's they're breaking historic profits and they're cutting jobs. And this money, this is the trick. Every corporation wants all of the money, not some of the money. And what we've allowed to happen is that now corporations, they want money so bad, they're cutting corners to the point that they're blowing up fucking World War I equivalents of weapons in our backyard of America when somebody's going to eat a fucking Subway sandwich, you know? Eat fresh, flop over.
When the government tells you that you have to evacuate,
we don't have any trust with the government at this.
Does that give you
what trust do you have
any sort
right
of
now
legal recourse?
As a single person who listens to the news? I have no trust of the news, not because the news is bullshit, because it's because they just lie.
You have to read between the lines, and they're like giant lines. You have to read, yes.
But they spend so much time framing up this fear porn that...
Oh, you make it sound sexy.
Right?
Yeah.
Brought to you by...
You're going to say...
Have a heart attack!
Brought to you by...
That's...
the Grammys, brought to you by...
I understand what you're saying. You don't trust what you're seeing on the news, at least...
If there's no consistency, it's all selling a product. I don't trust it. I don't trust news to be fair and impartial when they're running ads by pharmaceutical companies about how great pharmaceutical companies are.
You should be able to tell. When they say we're fair and impartial, chances are they're not fair and impartial.
You ever wonder how things got this fucked up? There's no accountability and leadership. It's all popularity. And then you remember somewhere along the way, kind of got distracted, how we're different, how we're all trying to make a family stable.
That was in 2008.
It was 2013 when we did the Propaganda Act and Occupy Wall Street was definitely a sign, but it's all about money at the end. It's not profitable for companies to allow blacks and whites and Jews to get along. You don't want that to happen.
No, you have to tiptoe around two of those.
You want corporations to make all of the money and have everybody bitching at each other for their next news cycle where every single fucking problem is a yes or no. It's two wings of the same bird. The same bird is bullshit. Once you realize that, they're just selling you bullshit to distract you from the fact that this chemical is going to be in the wastewater and people are going to eat it and it's going to have long-term psychological damage, cancer. That's important. That would be, if we were in leadership positions, wouldn't that be the top priority for you? This clusterfuck? You would want it resolved and you would let people know exactly what's going on so they can make informed choices about their lives. Instead, we have this endless parade of how great we are and how nice everybody is. In the same world where child soldiers are loading AK-47s and squeezing triggers at an occupying force that's there because they want territory and blood and oil.
That sounds silly. That's really hard to put around in one of those magazines. It's not easy.
Well, we're bringing third world choices into America now. We're bringing, everybody's got to the point where they get a participation ribbon. They could be a complete fuck up and still get a pat on the back and a Snickers. And it's escalated to the point where you have a black woman standing next to an open jet engine dollar settlement, even though they can prove that she was warned many times not to be there.
Is this the lady that got ingested
and got turned into ribbons? Yeah.
Yeah. Who did they give the $10 million to?
Her family.
For doing what?
For her dying that way.
What?
Yeah.
You can just get money because somebody dies?
Yes.
No shit.
And it doesn't really address the underlying issue, which was if you ignore the dangers and you die. But on the other hand, do we really want to get that? That's the endless debate, right? The debate isn't that. Tell you what, we'll talk about police real quick. You know what would stop all this shootings, school shootings, robbery, and all this? If cops were held individually responsible for insurance, where it wasn't taxpayers paying out settlements to families but it was police officers have to have individual insurance to cover their events.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
It completely solves the problem. So you do the same thing for...
Wouldn't that also create jobs?
Yes, it would.
You need a whole nother insurance company.
Right.
Or you just lump it in with your Geico or your Allstate coverage.
Now with firearm accidental insurance.
That's right. No, that's a great idea.
And
I've
we
always
just
been a proponent
toss
of
this
that.
around everywhere. But
Yeah.
we're not searching for solutions. That would be a solution. Hey, what we're going to do is we're going to punish this rail corporation, not with a civil lawsuit, but because we're the motherfucking authority of the land and they're just a company. We're going to kick down their doors and find out who fucked up and then drag them out in the middle of the street and have every single person affected by that take a shot at them. But that's not what they're going to do.
It's not the CEO's fault that a train derailed.
Okay, but which middle management? The CEO was responsible for policy.
What policy? I'm staring off thinking. What policy? To check the ball bearings and the wheels?
No, just fucking covered this. PCR. They changed the whole thing to individual cars instead of by freight trains. And now everything's getting fucked up for profit. So you're saying that the CEO who's responsible for profits to the shareholders made a cost-cutting measurement, but instead of holding him personally responsible and saying, if you do this, we're going to put your ass to the coals, what we're going to do is we're going to try to slap his wrist legally to take some of the profits. Profits that will be given to the lawyers, who will then move on to the next tragedy and then have an off-bill settlement that you have to funnel into.
You're right. Fuck them. Drag them out. Let's get them out. Can we just go right back to street stonings?
I'm just saying, what we've seen right now doesn't work. Voting isn't working. We're trying to find a peaceful solution to a problem that ends up being civilization's crumbling. People are worried how their hair looks. Now,
speaking of which,
fabulous.
Thank you. I'm really appreciating and digging my new haircut. I did this literally to impress you. Well, I'm glad we're here in Florida and not having to worry about, trains derailing here. All we have here is just a litany of amazing Florida man stories, which I've been lining up. So whenever you want to hear anything, you let me know. Only thing we have to worry about here is the darn sunrail, and we've talked about this before, hitting all the homeless people, and it happens
but
way too much.
Who wouldn't be envious of Canada, who has medically assisted suicide? And if you're homeless after a period of time, it starts looking a little tempting to step in front of a train.
I wonder how much those chemicals cost for the medically assisted suicide. If they're too expensive, maybe you could just invest in a big bulldozer, put it on the front of a train, and just wheel the geriatrics in front of it.
We could, and then what we could do is we could go to the medical insurances and making sure that they don't have first dibs on their inheritance as they die, taking money from the in.
Is that a thing that happens?
Oh, come on now. You know that they're trying to get us in debt to the point where we're just slaves, period.
So there's like a death tax for your inheritance.
We're already at the point where one person working one job is not going to traditionally, through any of the lower or middle classes, provide a house, vacations, full-time pay. It's reliance on the system. We've allowed this government to get to the point where they're taxing to be more and more invasive and controlling in our lives.
Problem that is caused by the government, which then turns around and tells you to vote for more government to fix the problem that they caused in the first place. And people still run to the ballot box, waving that note in their hand, going to pick their next lord and leader to help get them off of the system.
So the story that I see right now is the apathy of the average American. We've destroyed what it is to be an American. What it is to be an American is no longer being a citizen that pays their taxes and has national pride. and feels generally superior that they live in a land of burgers and guns. What we've turned that burgers and guns into is gays and no fun. Now everything's gay and bitchy. And if it's not gay and bitchy and in your face, then it's probably not going to be on TV. But if it's on TV, it's, oh man, gay and bitchy in your face. Just like The Last of Us.
We
talked about this.
No, cut it out. Let's not talk about The Last of Us.
But what I'm saying is,
your opinion on that sucks.
This is
wrong. Your opinion is wrong.
It is abhorrent. And the problem is, you either have acceptance or tolerance, or you get lambasted by a bunch of bitches who have an opinion. And there is no confidence to step forward because you get dragged by a horde and lambasted. Joe Rogan makes a joke about Jews and money.
About saying a Jew doesn't like money is like saying an Italian doesn't like pizza.
And what ends up happening? It's another false controversy. What happened to Kanye West, by the way? Where's he at?
No one is going to talk about him because they're
Overlord's
told them
what happened when his
no more screen time for this guy.
Personal trainer Harvey Westernack was saying that if you don't agree to come and talk to me, I'm going to get you locked up in an institution. And then where's Kanye again? Question mark. Yeah.
Is he in an institution?
Who knows? That's the thing. We just get constant amount of lies and misdirection and false idols to worship. We've got Grammys showing satanistic, unholy people just dancing around with symbolism.
What was that about? Holy shit!
But
it was blatant in your face.
Right, and you saw this, and you see you see the horns, you see the signs, you see the different symbolisms, you see the black and white checkered floors, and you go and ask, so is this what happens when Christianity is no longer the major religion? You just fully embrace Satanism? And then you're like, hey, Satanists who want to sacrifice people for power, do you think they'd really have a problem with derailing a train?
No.
Did the 80s and 90s satanic panic, was it wrong? I don't fucking think so at this point.
No, it's pretty clear now that they were not wrong.
And then you wonder, does this change how we view each other? Are we going to boil down from the United States of America to just the states of America? We're divided based on tribes and religion. We just get to the point where we boil down into, if you vote red, get out of here, you're dead.
Ooh, I have a thing to toss your way. If we became just the states of America, who do you think would be the strongest state in terms of our if Florida
it's going to be hard,
Georgia,
but it's going to definitely be where the Mississippi River has couple of bridges that are the primary transportation, all good. So I think those would be the strongest states. Or Colorado is up there, NORAD, plenty of air defense.
They have all those mountains they can go and hide in.
Right. Florida.
I think Florida would be
up there, not because of any particular disadvantage. The advantage is that we have so much access to water. We have so much variety. We have citrus. We have cows. We have, we're almost self-sustaining if we don't let anybody come in.
That's right. Then we have Florida Man.
We have Florida Man.
And 24 million of them.
Out of all the Florida Men. So now that we've gotten heavy on how shit's fucked and how they can't even talk about how Antifa shot at the police officers and started a whole riot. You know that, what is his name? Kyle Rittenhouse is back in jail.
No, he's not.
Yeah, they're suing him.
Well, they're suing him, but he's not back.
But that's what I'm saying. It's endless. Fucking endless.
Yeah, they've been suing him for a few months. I follow him on Twitter.
But it's endless, right? What we see is an endless train of, if you have an opinion, you'll be sued for your. You can't allow to express your opinion unless it's corporate. It has to go through corporate checkboxes. At the same time that most of these big tech corporations, which started this trend of accepting everybody and promoting interest, men dropping out of the corporate industry is huge. The reason they don't want to go to rail job anymore is because they found out that they're not getting paid well, right?
I mean, what do they have to be paying them? What's not well, I guess what I'm trying to ask.
When you consider the danger to the job, when you can be upcoming Super Bowl, right? You can be one of the team Super Bowl. Each one of those players is going to make a hefty fucking bank.
You're making between $40,000 and $56,000 a year.
It's not worth.
I guess it depends on what you're doing.
That's peanuts. That's like fucking nothing. And literally, that's worse pay than a police officer.
Okay, I agree.
That's worse pay. And what's the job?
No, that's true.
Long hours.
My wife makes more than that.
Right. Long hours for fucking what? That's what I'm saying. We've gotten to the point where we're accepting bullshit while corporations are loading up artificial intelligence that can say and repeat anything ever.
And
lying
bringing
to
in
us.
record profits.
And making record profits.
Yeah.
Their gods are coming out. Their Lucifer worship is blatant and obvious while they mock us for it. You point it out and they're like, ha ha ha, we're not really talking about Satan. We're talking about this man who did the video, unholy, you know? It's always the same bullshit. And then it's patting each other on the back for historic achievements. Historic achievement. Transgender athlete cracking a woman's skull.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that one for more than a day.
And then it disappeared.
And then it was gone.
Or recently I saw hopping on Instagram, had a video talking about this guy dressed as a woman walks into a bathroom, straight up assaults everyone. Walk in there now. No societal shame, no shunning, no nothing. And we've allowed the freaks to win. Freaks used to get bullied and beat up, so they wouldn't go into people's personal areas. So you wouldn't have creeps going in to molest young girls in the bathroom. There used to be some sense of normalcy. Now, even saying that it's abnormal for a grown-ass man same bathroom as a young girl is considered wild. It's considered abnormal to say that.
It's considered wild and abnormal by that super left-leaning cult of transgenderism. That's not a lot of people in the transgender community are coming out as independents because they see what's happening on the left side of politics.
It's too late.
It's
Independent doesn't work.
We just want to be left alone.
Yeah,
let us do what we want to do.
It's too late. It's really too late because what has happened is they're not coming out against it. They're coming out to be left alone.
And what do we do as white folks then?
Stop supporting any business that's in front of you. Wall Street, fucking cut them out. Gillette that did that whole commercial for if you're white guy, you're wrong. Or, again and again, it was that fucking thrilling.
I guess I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. You said it's too late because they didn't come out against it. But when you have that story that came out 2 years ago about that father and son that chased down that black man and then beat him in the street and murdered him, do we as white people have to come out against that? Do we have to make it known, or is it too late for us now too? We're all considered these extreme tribalists.
We're considered extreme tribalists anyway. Tribal instincts always goes and defaults towards tribal preference. So you're always going to have your in-tribal group preference, period. That's why black entertainment television exists. By black people, for black people.
So we're talking about the law, not the rule, not the exception.
But the rule itself is changing as we observe it now. 2020, we had peaceful Antifa protests that were burning people down. Right now, we have an old man in Texas being arrested and held on a $1 million bail for shooting at an invader on his property who came from the south of the border.
So that's the exception to the rule.
No, the original rule was the castle doctrine, right? In Texas.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the rule.
But see, now we're seeing exceptions to the rule punishing you for fighting back against what our own government refuses to acknowledge, which is the borders are just open.
But if you go back to where you're saying people and creepers are going into the bathrooms, that would be an exception to the rule.
It's not an exception. It's what's accepted. We've allowed transgenders access to women's bathrooms. And it's always been a mating and dating predation.
I just have a feeling that you wouldn't even know. I feel like that's an exception. That's an exception to the rule that happened.
What do you mean? Because you're not being specific. You're just saying exception to the rule.
So the rule isn't that if someone is transgender, they're going to go molest somebody in a bathroom. That just doesn't happen.
What do you mean? That's been pretty fucking frequently.
But you can't lob everybody under that.
Yes, I can.
That umbrella.
I absolutely can.
Well, okay,
I absolutely see that. And I think
that.
that's really where we're coming to a head. Is that you are what you tolerate. What we've tolerated is that someone, a grown man who is cross-dressing, is now a woman. That woman can access woman territory, like women's prison, women's bathrooms. And what's happening is bitches be getting raped. .exe.
Yes, but people are getting murdered by men at an alarming rate, and we don't say that's all men. You know what I mean? Yeah, whatever.
I disagree with your circumstances because you're trying to boil it down to male and female.
Yes,
I'm boiling it down to the fact that it's access and power. They can overpower physically, and they now have access, whereas before we had male and female, specifically because we had male and female sports. We were not seen as the same. We were seen as physically having different capabilities.
So because of the activism that these transgenders on the extreme left have done, they've given, seriously, people like me access to the women's restroom in places where vulnerable people are.
Yes.
Is that what you're getting at? It's like the access
and there's no
shit. So now,
there's no like observation. Oh, I see this grown man entering this female bathroom.
Now it has to be normal.
Now
normal.
it's
I can just
normalized.
Everybody say I'm a woman.
Right. And then what happens? They use this access just like fucking male feminists. They use this access to get pussy.
So it's not just that transgender person who's committing the acts. It's the activism that they did to give access to everybody into these places where women are vulnerable. And now any creep
can go in there.
Because
at no point were they checked.
Or some transgender
At no
guy.
point were they checked. They could have went into the disabled bathroom at any time. That was male and female.
That's true. Well, they need to put a sign up.
They needed what they needed is acknowledgement. That's what it was. It was acknowledgement and a fucking ribbon on their back. Everybody gets a ribbon except white man. White man is bad.
Yeah.
That's the story that's being told. And what's happening simultaneously? More accidents are happening. Less people are at work. Less people are having sex. We're all more divided. Everything seems to be more expensive. Eggs are $7 a fucking gallon. And we... $7 a gallon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what are the things, what are the issues that they're talking about on television? Whether gay butt sex is talked about enough.
It's not.
Yeah, we need more media.
We
need more butt sex. And there's no line. There's no line. It went from tolerance to acceptance to and it's become an international brand to the point where the United States of America's government is putting the flag at the same level as the American flag and other. And they wonder why nobody wants to sign up for the military. Because the small percentage of pride people aren't volunteering their own flesh and blood. They're too busy racking up mental illnesses and getting on disability.
So if gay stuff like bothers you, do you only watch like solo woman porn?
I don't. First off, I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't.
Or you don't watch it?
I don't like it.
But if you did, solo or is it girl guy?
To me,
girl guy, as we already discussed, is 50% gay.
To me, porn is weird because you're not having you're looking at a hypnotizing illusion screen and accepting that as sexual interaction.
And it's all choreographed. You expect that.
You expect that
in your personal life,
right? So it becomes where instead of having a natural flow of energy between you and your partner. It's just like the perversion. The reason that I don't like it to begin with is the smallest unit that succeeds and supports civilization is a family. Family unit is the core of all civilization. When you divide it from the family unit, which we have between male and female voting patterns, and between adding every single tribe and special interest group to just jam its fucking nose in for more money. And that's all it is. It's money, it's power, it's access. Everybody wants to become a corporation because being a corporation is the most successful thing you can do. Being a brand is how you free yourself from the chain of being a debt slave. A debt slave from the Common Core math they teach us, which is retarded to begin with. It's systemic. They took out iodine from bread to make us stupider. They put mercury into each individual fucking vaccine that you could possibly ever get, and aluminum. So, and what happens? Heavy metals and toxicity in the brain. You know, and they treat us like we're idiots, because we are. Because anybody who can find this information, and should, but they won't, because it doesn't have to do with celebrity pop bullshit that gets jammed in your face, the Grammys, and their satanic worship. It distracts people because they see it and they're shocked, and then they talk about it by using names, and they endlessly talk about that shit. And what they're not talking about is that Hunter Biden is suing the shop owner for his laptop being released, while saying that it's his laptop, then omitting that it's his laptop. It's not really his laptop. It's just a laptop with information that shouldn't have been released. You know, this is the fuck game that we don't get.
Can I have some fine print in there? Say, you didn't pay? Go away. It's mine now.
And what part of... What part of... What part of this ends up being us able and willing to have a conversation anymore? Now we have artificial intelligence that modulates anything we talk about, period.
Can literally have the conversation for us.
Right, and yet they still are restricting any information that they hear. So what we have is a custom curated, you know, they're going to get rid of search engines, Google, and replace it with AIs that just give you a direct answer, and then won't give you the sources of that answer. And the sources of that answer will be able to be changed, just like the definition of the fucking vaccine and what a vaccine is.
So I could just click on Google and my Neuralink will know what I'm thinking?
And it will answer the specific question,
websites?
But it won't give you the website anymore. It'll just give you the answer. Because now artificial intelligence found is it's reading and interacting with websites like an end user, while being artificial intelligence. So they'll just take a snapshot of what they consider to be the relevant information, but who's programming them? Same people that are saying there are no difference between men and women?
Or the changing the definition of vaccine?
Or that's what I'm saying. Like, it's become this giant shell game of we're going to lie to you instead of telling the truth, because the illusion is softer and gentler on your feelings. The same world that a child soldier could execute the crime of not worshiping the right religion, or for not wearing a head cover. Fucking bastard.
Damn, that's heavy.
It is heavy. And this is what the kind of shit that made me feel like I was disconnected when military, civilian life, and where podcasting, working it out, logically helps me out. I don't give a shit about tribalism, because unless you involve me, I'm happy with everything that's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't give a shit about the brand name Balenciaga doing pedophilia on an Instagram. I care that it's a symbol that you can notice, and I can teach symbolism looks like, so that you can see in the future. Like if you go to a rap concert, Travis Scott do Astro World, open hell mouth, you know that a hell mouth is as somebody who absorbs souls. You're not fucking surprised when there's mass ritual dying there. You're not surprised when Pfizer is doing satanic dance, then Turkey suddenly has earthquake. You know what I'm saying? And then they're talking about how there was lightning over the earthquake area and it was shallow and it might have been electrically developed by artificial HARP technology from America slapping down Turkey for not getting on board the Ukraine war. But that's just a rumor because we're not going to talk about that. What we're going to talk about is who celebrities' ass size got a little bigger and who got Botox in their fucking face.
Oh, that's right. Kim Kardashian, my love.
Kim Kardashian, which is a coven who worships specifically with spirit chefs. The same spirit chefs who were
fat ass.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is, and it's a fucking cycle of just bullshit. And you know, the worst part is somebody knows the whole story. This is what I love about doing this. I hope what it ends up doing is it ends up getting to the end use high-end cultist leader who's just laughing his fucking ass off. He's like, yeah, he's right. And we would use him. But really, it's just funny. Because at the end of the day, people are dumb.
Is it Mario?
It is. It's Mario. Mario's really... It's me, Mario. It's me, Mario. I secretly rule the world. I treat people like cattle and just exploit them for money. The medical industry is just mushrooms.
I'm gonna pre-order my tickets.
Shit.
Watch Chris Pratt do his impersonation of Mario.
I can't wait for that. But so let's light it up at the end here with some good old-fashioned Florida man. I got
a question for you. What is your have you ever heard of the Festival of the Steel Phallus?
It sounds like a real hard chrome dick move, but what's up?
It's a fertility celebration in Japan in the Shinto religion. A Florida activist has applied to display a giant penis sculpture in 9 Florida cities to mark the Festival of the Steel Phallus. The South Sun Florida Sentinel reports that Fort Lauderdale has told Chaz Stevens, to fill out an application, which he takes as a promising sign. But Mayor Dean Tantalis is against it, saying that Fort Lauderdale embraces diversity. But at some point, we need to draw a line between expression and decency. All Mr. Stevens is trying to do is draw attention to himself.
But and the city tries to maintain a family-friendly environment. We're on the stage for personal excesses. But that's what I'm saying. We're the core of civilization is the family unit. We're coming to a head real quick because what has happened is it went real quick from we just want to live and let live to bake the cake to you will make your kid gender fluid.
And can I have a giant penis statue in the middle of your town square?
And also make sure you bring your kids to transgender Pride Town, drag queen center, fun, happy kiss, 2 guys kissing and butt fucking on stage time. You know, at what point is there a limit? The limit is when everybody's like, no, stops giving them money. That's really what it is. You asked me what the solution here for Florida man for all of this is stop giving these people money and start investing in family-owned businesses, veteran businesses. Start getting yourself into a position where you're not just supporting ideology, you're not just supporting general principles, supporting your community, the people you meet, people who matter to you. You should be making friends like the world's about to collapse.
You could definitely probably see the other side of this if you finally cracked open the book Pegging for Dummies that I let you borrow.
The only problem with this is I know too much about energy flow to know that once you violate your kundalini by pressing up against your prostate, 33rd vertebrae, what you're doing is you're rooting yourself and inverting it so that you focus on your butt.
Is that science for awesome orgasm or what?
Once a guy who is competitive as shit to begin with realizes that he has a permanent nut button 1 press away, you better believe that he's going to find the most effective, kinky fucking way for that nut button to be pressed.
Access to the button at all times, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is why...
the permanent nut button.
This is why I'm not surprised that the fucking illusion spell creators laughing, because they treat us like idiots and we act it that way.
Story number 2 is a Tamarack man was arrested for allegedly attempting to run over a neighbor with his vehicle following a dispute over dog poop. On January 23rd, Broward County Sheriff's Office responded to a neighbor dispute after receiving reports of a man acting erratically, attempting to strike neighbors with his vehicle. Upon arrival, deputies encountered an angry Lucas Satin, 47, of Tamarack, seated in the driver's seat of the vehicle. This guy, he yelled out the window, "Stay away, I don't trust you," and warned if the deputies came any closer, he would drive off. Anyway, he's arrested.
And
fucking idiot.
It's fucking hilarious.
Oh my gosh. Florida man confesses to cops saying, "Jesus told me to drive my Ferrari 360 off of the pier."
Jesus, he's the walking meme of take the wheel.
Right. There's been so many of these that have happened in Florida and around.
You noticed the rise in car accidents in Florida? It's been pretty wild. The roads have gotten a lot worse. I don't know what it's been, but this past year, I've seen a lot more I-4 accidents, a lot more like local city accidents. I'm always hearing the going.
Yeah, a lot of people moved here recently, like in the past 2 years. A lot.
I was under the impression that they're moving back now that COVID restrictions. Like New Yorkers are just fucking off and leave. Like the whole real estate industry is drying up. Foreign investors are selling their properties. They're not renting anymore. Hey, it's Angelina.
Well, good. I got 2 more. Last month, 48-year-old James Murciaga of Deerfield Beach drove his Ferrari off the end of a dock in Palm Beach after confrontation with a police officer. Murciaga was rummaging through his Ferrari 360 with the car parked on the public Palm Beach dock. December 26th, approached by a police officer who told him he couldn't park there. He then apologized, telling him he was waiting for a friend to pick him up, backed off the dock, and instead of cooperating with his car, get out of the way, he accelerated back down the dock, pitching his supercar off the end into 30 feet of salt water.
I mean, that's dumb.
Jesus told me to drive through a small gate and into 6-foot window, he told the police officer. Jesus made me the smartest man on earth, and it's so hard to have this much responsibility. Money is going to be irrelevant in 2 days. Remember to smile. Geez, I want what this dude is smoking.
Honestly, I feel like he's having a great time.
As long as he was smiling as he came up. Now, I want to give a message to all those weirdos over there at Universal Studios that told an Instagram model, Whitney Page, that she wasn't allowed in because of her boobs. Her boobs were too large. And they said, "You're not allowed in the park because they are distracting." She says, "I felt humiliated and embarrassed, and I was told to change my top to be able to enter. People started staring." Well, you know she liked that.
Well, she's obviously an attention seeker to begin with, Hutton point where business is saying, calm your tits.
Calm your tits. I think it's because I have naturally big breasts, and it makes people uncomfortable. But as far as I know, my clothing wasn't against the rules. She was wearing a white sports bra, you angel you, and green bike shorts when she says she was told by Universal staff that she needed to put on a shirt and cover up in order to enter the park. That is a sin. That is a crime. Let the boobs be free. And that's it. That's all I have for Florida Man today.
That's phenomenal. That's going to wrap up our episode here of Gods and Prophets number 69. We got a little heavy today considering the incompetence of Joe Biden on the rail administration and the fact he railroaded workers to the point where they're so tired that World War I chemical gas attacks are happening on American soil, that we've destabilized our entire civilization to who whines the loudest, supported by whatever flag is more rainbowy and special than the last one, and how decency has been dissolved in nothing more than a shrieking match of competence, really. Politicians piss me off in every possible way.
Hear, hear.
They're going to lie to your face, and they're never going to do things dramatic like arrest the CEO of the rail company who caused this, not a legal thing, arrest him and try him for World War I gas attacks, violating human rights. I figure unless we get to the point where we start punishing them and acting like Big Daddy should, which is a problem that I have with this, but we're not treating like dad, we're treating like friend. We're not your pal. Right? Government isn't your friend.
Right.
Government's good at taxing you and killing you.
and killing others. Yes, that's exactly.
That's really what it's good for.
Every law that the government passes, every law that they say they have to, secure, has to be secured
against
with a gun
against people. While they talk about how you don't really need that gun.
That's right. There is no law so small that the government won't kill you over it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a law. If you said I'm not going to listen to it, how else would they enforce that? They give you a ticket. Well, I don't want to pay this ticket, so they come to your house and they kick in the door and they try to take you to jail. Well, I don't want to go to jail. Bam, and you're dead. There you go.
It's interesting that you point that out because civil forfeiture, taking away people's monies and trying to invest more into the banks.
That's
the same banks that are going to get buy-ins and buyouts. It's like what happened to Greece and Cyprus.
Oh, that's a whole nother episode, man. The civil
I'm just saying. Well,
so
it's really just it's the same shit show. What we're seeing is a bunch of illusion spells as people constantly tell us how special and historic the moment is. They keep pushing whatever fucking selling in the news, and what's selling in the news is what they all agree on. It's fear porn. Fear porn.
Fear porn.
Fear porn.
Yeah.
What's your favorite fear porn? Mine's gonna be World War III.
My favorite fear porn?
It's gonna be World War III, or the Earth is suddenly bathed in shut-off radiation, like happened to Brazil and Italy. And Turkey.
Fear porn would probably be war with Russia, climate change. Like all of a sudden, I'm gonna wake up and the ocean's gonna be in my living room.
I mean, we do live in Florida, and that's a fucking possibility. They are saying that the ice caps are melting, and then re-solidifying, but then melting.
The ice caps are melting, yet millionaires and billionaires are still buying beachfront property.
And with that, this has been I'm Talon Trueth
and Mark Santana.
And this has been